skip. Get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 129 of Frameskip, a video game podcast with three friends. I'm your host tonight. My name is George, and I'm joined by the man who puts the hot in Atlanta, Austin. Austin, how's it going?
Hey, I love it when you put it that way, George. That's right. I don't even live in Atlanta, but here we are. I'm doing great.
Thank you.
I'm doing great. It feels good to be here.
Thank you for immediately discrediting me as soon as you got the microphone. I appreciate that. But also joining me, someone who I think will be a little bit nicer, the man who puts the steel in the Pittsburgh Steelers himself. Are you close to Pittsburgh? Wait, we got Seth. Seth, how you doing?
I am
He's
nowhere
not.
near
He's not.
Pittsburgh.
Philadelphia.
I thought you were from Western PA.
I'm not from Western or Eastern PA.
Oh, the
I'm
other
from
one.
Central
Central
PA.
Yeah. Central PA. All right.
The real Pennsylvania.
You could have
Well,
said
what do
he
you guys
puts
expect? It's only been 70 episodes. You think I should know you by now? Is that?
You could have said he puts the set in sexy. I think that would have been good.
That or he puts the papa in PA.
That's a good one.
I like that.
I like that. The Papa in PA. Yeah. I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm excellent. I've been exercising a lot more. I've been waking up at like 7 a.m. and walking like 7.5 miles a day. And I'm very sore all over. I've got shin splints in places that aren't my shins.
George,
Shin splints are the worst.
Oh, they are. You're my inspiration, George, because I really want to do that. I really want to start walking daily because I feel like I just have a very sedentary lifestyle. And hence why I purchased a standing desk and I'm standing now as I'm recording, which is a nice change. So
yeah, that's great.
We'll see. See what happens.
My dad
honest,
says
I've never wanted one of them ever, not one time.
They're great.
It's great. It's fantastic.
So many offices I've had use them. They're great.
Yeah.
Because it's always like whenever you're like in a public setting and you like set it up, like make it go up, everyone's like, "Oh shit, this guy means business." He's about to do some of the best.
It's the
work
new
of his
age,
career.
rolling up the sleeves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Push up the desk.
No, my dad says that sitting is the new smoking. He's read that in multiple places.
Interesting.
Which I don't think it's nearly as bad for you as smoking is, but I do both quite a bit. So yeah, walking for health, walking for fun.
Austin, how about you just like let go of your apartment and go live on a farm and become that guy.
I like
get you out
that.
there and exercise. Yeah,
I like
you
that.
Start milking some cows in the morning.
Yeah.
Get there and bale hay or whatever the hell else farmers do.
Just pluck some corn.
Yeah.
I don't know what farmers do.
You joke. The amount of times I have like a group chat with like all my advertising buddies, and we're always like, "Why do we do this? Let's just quit. Like we all have some money. Let's just buy a farm. Let's just do something meaningful with our lives."
Well, that's not really that meaningful. Because you know what, George? At some point, someone's got to scrape up the cow shit, and then you're questioning, why am I doing this as well?
We weren't gonna do a cow farm. I was gonna do a certain type of farm. I was gonna say what kind.
Oh,
okay. Seth,
At some point, someone's got to spread manure.
I've never
That's
asked
a
you
good
this,
point.
Seth. Is your job active, like physically? Like, is it intense on a physical front, or is it more so just
Yeah.
you rely on the machines? Okay.
Well, so like the machines get, you wouldn't believe it, but like
Yeah.
making paper is exceptionally dirty. It's
Right.
disgusting. So the machines have to get constantly cleaned,
Yeah.
and it's not really accurate to call it a paper machine. It's more of a paper dryer, right? And because it's a dryer, it's a football field size machine, and it is constantly over 100 degrees with 100% humidity all the way around it. So climbing up that bad boy up and down is not fun. Thankfully, though, now that I've been promoted, I make other people do it for me 99% of the time.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, make them.
Also,
make
does it smell bad?
Most paper mills do. Ours doesn't because we flush our drains out all the time, constantly, really well. But like 99% of other paper mills, you walk in there and it smells awful. Because
There's a town in There's a town in Maine called Rumford, and every time we drive by it, we always call it Bumford because it smells like butt because of the paper mill.
Yeah, because believe it or not, paper rots. It's
Yeah,
like it's like trees do, but when you get it wet and you just let it sit, it will rot, and massive amounts of it smells awful.
that's what she said. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm
Love it.
hosting tonight. I get to make all of that's what she said jokes I want. Austin, what have you been doing lately?
George, I have been playing the hit online MMO Final Fantasy XIV, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. And
Wow.
yeah, isn't that crazy? We were there day one.
We
were there
were.
day one.
Were. I still have my original copy.
Yeah. So Seth and I talked about this a couple episodes ago. We had that big kind of Final Fantasy 16 discussion as we had both gotten further in the game. And toward the tail end of that conversation, I said, we were talking a lot about Final Fantasy 12 and some of the correlation between 16 and 14. I said in there at the end, well, man, now I want to go play 14, and I did. I don't know if that was the right decision because I still have not beat 16. I am exactly, Seth, at that part that you mentioned 2 episodes ago where you have to build the the ship. I don't think that's really that big of a spoiler. So
it's not, because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and frankly, it sucks. Frankly, it sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah. I got to that point and was like, man, I'm still enjoying this, but this just is not vibing with me right now. I just want to play 14. So I bought a month of 14 and have just jumped straight in. I have just beat the Heaven's Ward expansion as of last night, and been doing the duty roulettes and like just getting back into that world. And God, man, that game is, I don't know what it is, but that is like a top 5 game for me of all time. And it has been for years, ever since I played it, back on the PS3 when it first launched. And it's just so easy to jump back in and love that game.
Imagine this. It's a top 5 game for you, and you've only played the worst part of it.
I know.
The game continuously gets better as you go deeper in. So
yeah,
you got a lot to be excited for, man. The main city in Stormblood is one of the most beautiful video game cities I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to walk around in. The story is phenomenal. Now, I haven't, so I started playing Endwalker as well recently.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten too far into it, but so far the story hasn't grabbed me as much in Endwalker as it did Shadowbringers. But you got a lot to look forward to, man. Seriously, I wish you would get into it, George.
I tried. I think I put like 15 hours into it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I got past like the baby's first MMO steps. And I think I would get interested into it, but man, does that just take a long time. And I know I need to do it because I've never really played an MMO. Austin, I assume you played more Final Fantasy 14 than Destiny, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've played probably about 500 hours of 14.
Okay, so it was just easier for you to jump in after not touching it for a minute and figure out what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. It's still been a challenge because my main class that I use is Black Mage, which is kind of technical. I mean, all the classes in that game are technical because it's an MMO, but Black Mage in particular just has a lot that it uses. I know the casters do have pretty complicated, to use an MMO term, a rotation, which is essentially like the moves that you should be using in an exact order to maximize damage. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I haven't played the game in like 4 or 5 years, and for the most part, like I jumped right in, and without even watching a video, like 90% of it all came back to me, which was good. I was kind of surprised by that because the game is very complicated, and I think that's probably the hardest part for somebody just starting off, is if you're new to MMOs or if you don't have a group of people you're jumping in with and they're, kind of showing you the ropes. It's a very hard game to get into it at first, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's excellent.
I feel that it's just a lot of the stuff I was doing at the beginning. Like I think I tried it last fall.
Yeah.
Not exceptionally long ago, but it was just like nothing I'm doing feels important. And like I don't even, to the point where like I don't even know if I'm doing the right thing or if I just found some side quest. Like I can't tell what the main quest is. I can't tell what I'm building towards. And like I chose like an archer class, so like the combat wasn't extremely involved because like you're just doing stuff from a distance.
Yeah.
And so like because of that, I was just like, oh, I probably didn't choose the right thing to get me engaged right off the bat with something I'm still new to.
The thing that I think 14 does exceptionally well, because it's interesting because it does it exceptionally well when you look back on it, but when you're doing it at the time, it feels awful. Is you start out as like a bottom of the barrel adventurer in 14, and you're going around and doing these things like you said, like that seem like they're not important whatsoever. And by the end of the first, I don't know, content area, you're like you're slaying gigantic robots and stuff like that. And then by the end of Heaven's Ward, you're slaying massive like legendary dragons, and in Stormblood, well, it goes on and on and on until like you're fighting gods and whatnot. But your character progresses in power until like in Endwalker right now is you're the hero of Eorzea and whatever. But when you're playing it at the time in these early levels, you're like, man, what is this? This is awful. Which is where I think the Final Fantasy 14 community really carries those early levels because, dude, you can't talk about the pros of Final Fantasy 14 without talking about how good the community is. They're just the most welcoming, fun community that loves people, and they love people to try their game out. I mean, there's a reason that meme exists. Like, oh, have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMO Final Fantasy 14 Shadowbringers with a 500-hour content? But I'm sure you guys have seen it, right?
Yeah.
Because they have that massive free trial. But I can't recommend it enough to people, man. Like it is daunting and intimidating, but you really should try and jump in and get your feet wet, because especially like, dude, Final Fantasy 14 carried me through like a really dark time in my life, a really, really painful dark time.
Yeah.
And it's that type of game that you can do that with, where it's really fun to get lost in a world, be social, interact with all these people that are really fun and just love the game. Dude, there is people in this game that go AFK in one of the cities, and they have their character just standing static in the city. The thing is, though, they're not actually AFK. They're standing there just vibing in the world. Like they're still at their computer just like talking to each other and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a chat room where they're just all standing there, and people like there's a class called the Bard, right? And you can actually play instruments, and these people will set up multiple accounts and take all these characters to a spot in the main city, and they'll play music with multiple characters. I don't know how they pull it off, but they have like a whole band with different instruments, and they'll actually play music, and people will gather around them and watch and whatnot. Crazy stuff like this happens in Final Fantasy 14 every day. It's the craziest MMO I've ever played, and I played a lot of MMOs.
Yeah. It's a very social game. It's a game that for me, you're right, Seth, like it carried me through a dark place in my life too when it first came out, and going through Heaven's Ward initially, the first 90% of it at least was a pretty rough time for me, and just on a personal level, and that the game really makes you feel connected to the world, which is nice for a video game. Like, I haven't been playing with anybody. Seth, I know you're jumping back into it, and I know we'll play, but this past couple weeks, I have not played with anybody from my friends, but I still feel so interconnected with that world because, like, for example, I jumped on, and within the first like hour of me, renewing my subscription and jumping back into that world, some guy messaged me just out of the blue and was like, "Hey, man, saw you had the novice thing, which, George, if you're like starting off playing for the first time, there will be like a little leaf that's beside your name that's supposed to indicate like, hey, this is a new player. So they're probably not well versed on the world. Help them where you can," is basically what the community reads it as. And immediately it gives you that as well if you've been gone for a while. So go ahead.
So, sorry, time out. Is there like incentive on the game for these people to help newcomers, or is this like literally just they've fostered this amazing community of people who just
That's what it is.
It's that.
giving? Okay.
it's that. And I guess there is a little bit of incentive for the like dungeons essentially, because you can actually get like currency and stuff for doing lower level dungeons if you're a higher level player. But
Mm-hmm.
from a social standpoint, no, it's like totally just the way the community is. But to finish what I was saying though, like I jumped on immediately and got a message from somebody. Just like you get the novice leaf, you get a leaf if you've been gone for a while to indicate like, hey, this person's probably rusty, like help them where you can. And I got a message immediately and was like, hey, you want to join my guild? We've got like 400 people. This is casual, looking to just have some friendly helpers that can help out newcomers and people rejoining. And I joined, and it's been great, like having people to help me out and answer my questions. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy because having that little like novice leaf in almost any other MMO game you can think of, no one would want to party with you. No one would want to like play with you at all because, like, for instance, World of Warcraft, the community is generally viewed as quite toxic and intimidating. But in Final Fantasy 14, there's none of that, man. None. Like, the party wipes because you missed your heals or you lost aggro as a tank or whatever, and they're like, all right, let's jump back in, let's do it again. Maybe they might send you some tips or something like that, and there's really no. I mean, I've had very few bad encounters with people in Final Fantasy 14. They just generally are people that love their game.
Dude, when I play Destiny, I feel like a younger brother, who's just like not old enough to like go to a party, and just like, oh shit, you guys are doing a raid this weekend. Like, I'd love to join. They're like, what light level are you? I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and they're like, sorry, man, like can't carry you. It's like, oh, all right, sick. Guess I'll just hang out in the tower, I guess.
I'll just go back to doing my peasant activities, trying to get my item level up.
Yeah. So Seth, is Final Fantasy 14 what you've been playing as well?
I beat Final Fantasy 16 a couple of days ago.
Nice.
Really enjoyed it. Too long. Game's too long. I will say that. And that's partially my fault, I guess, because of me doing every side quest in the game. But also, what I will say is the side quests at the final two chapters are vital to the story and understanding like what you're fighting for. It's a really good wrap up to all the companions and and whatnot that you've gathered along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't see a need for this game to be like 60 hours long. I loved it though. I think Clive is probably my favorite Final Fantasy protagonist at this point. I think Jill and Torgal are really really phenomenal characters. I don't understand what Kotaku was really talking about. I mean, at this point, I think we can all agree Kotaku just puts out nonsense to make people hate click him. But yeah, I think Jill's a phenomenal character. I really loved the more mature themes and tone of the story, and yeah, man, I really recommend Final Fantasy 16 to pretty much anybody. What I will say is just play it at your own pace. There's no rush. There is a lot of content there. The game could have been maybe 10 to 20% more difficult, in my opinion, because at a certain point, I know me and Austin talked about this. I was just running past every minor encounter because I had no reason to fight them.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but
at that
yeah.
now. Like, I'm level 29, and if I see anything below level 20, I'm like, I'm just gonna skirt past you. No,
Yeah.
nothing to do here.
What I will say though, Creative Business Unit 3 did such a phenomenal job in the cinematic and in the cinematic experiences with this game, and it is some of the most crazy cutscenes that I've ever seen. It was like I was watching like an anime or something like that. I mean, like the scenes and the way they animated them with, especially with like the boss battles and the icons, absolutely insane. I mean, some of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life came from this game, and props to them.
The cutscenes around the Titan fight in
Mhm.
particular are just astounding. Like it's the scale of that game is so good.
Yeah. Yeah. They accomplished something really phenomenal with Final Fantasy 16, and you know what? I hope they make DLC for it. I was on board with them being like, no, it's a wrapped up nice package. We're not gonna make any DLC. But after I beat it, I'm like, there's a few areas and chapters of the story that could use a DLC package to really enhance the storytelling of the world. And
So at least a fishing minigame, for God's sake. Come on.
there you go, a fishing minigame. But yeah, I pretty much just been playing that. I beat that a couple days ago, and I immediately booted up Final Fantasy 14. One thing I was not prepared for this time around Final Fantasy 14 was the Steam Deck. Because let me tell you what, that is a problem because I can take that Steam Deck anywhere, turn on my mobile hotspot with my phone, and I've got Final Fantasy 14 on the go. And that's a problem. Because I can play it literally anywhere now. And before you were limited to playing it, wherever you had Wi-Fi in your consoles or whatnot. But it plays phenomenal on the Steam Deck, and I've just been chilling on the couch, going through the main story of Endwalker. Um, so my issue though, Austin, is that when I started, I've always had a thing for like um playing the featured class that the expansions
Yeah.
were showing off, right? So like Shadowbringers, they were featuring the Dark Knight. So I was playing the Dark Knight, and Endwalker, they had they're featuring the Gladiator or the Paladin. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a Paladin this time. So I switched to Paladin, was just starting to learn it when I took a break, and now I'm like, there's too many abilities here. I have no idea what's going on. So it's been like a learning curve trying to get back into learning how to play Paladin. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to play together with me and you
Yeah.
getting back in there,
I
getting the
know.
old team back together.
That's how we
'Cause
started. It was me and you.
back in the day,
and
man.
I think Eric played with us. We had a few people playing with us.
Well, I think Eric may have played like the first day. I know
Yeah.
him and Scott bought it, but they could. The launch of A Realm Reborn was such a mess.
It was disastrous, actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
there's just-
reading those. I was living in England when that game came out, and so like I didn't have a lot of games with me. I think I had like a DS and like a PSP, but I was drinking a lot. I was partying a lot. I was in England. I was 19 or 20. But like my big connection to video games was just like IGN and just like reading the news. And like, man, like the review of that game, like it didn't read like a review, it read like an obituary. Like it just seemed like it was like literally dead on arrival when it came out.
Dude,
I cannot believe this is the same game, and they figured out like an in-canon event to explain like why it was so dookie when it first came out and why it's so incredible now.
Watch Danny O'Dwyer's documentary, the
It's so
six-part documentary. It is one of the not just like, it's not just a good video game documentary, right? It's a fucking, it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen in my whole life.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the same issue though, Seth, to go back to the classes for a second, because I tried to go back to my white mage. I have like a level 50 white mage that I was leveling up when Andie and I were going through the story, and I just I can't do it.
It's hard to go back.
But black mage is my muscle memory because that was my original class, so I'm sticking with that one for now.
Yeah, black mage is a cool class because you're just casting massive like balls of fire and whatnot.
It's so good.
If you guys pick a time, and if you guys pick a day, and if that time and that day don't coincide with any major NFL game coming up in the next couple months, so like Sundays are kind of out for me, Thursdays usually out, Monday technically out, but I could be persuaded for Mondays. Like I'll dip my toes back into this game. If you
I've been playing every day.
You just dropped. You just dropped the most complicated schedule possible.
So I can't do Thursdays after 3:30, but before 5:15 p.m.
Well, no, like I assume we'd be playing at night.
Yeah.
Right, and so if we want to do, because like I'll alternate our days between Tuesday and Wednesday for recording. If we wanted to do the opposite night, well then Seth can't play. Fuck. Well, All right, we'll take this chat offline. We'll do the logistics.
figure
But
it out.
I'm willing to be convinced. Like I am willing. I am so head over heels in love with Final Fantasy 16. I
Dude,
told you guys this was JRPG summer.
if you like 16, you're going to love 14 if you really get into it, because 16 is seriously, to me, feels like an extension of 14. Like
Yeah, I would agree with that.
there are just so many systems in that game. And even like, I realize this, Seth, a lot of the lore and stuff in the game is very similar, which I kind of forgot about. Like,
yeah, they share similar like themes.
yeah. Well, without spoiling, like Iceheart in 14, like how that all works out is so similar to primals and stuff in 16, which I'd never even considered. So
Right.
it's really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best video game songs of all time, by the way.
Dude,
is that
I listened to that like 6 times this morning. So good.
Man, I played a little Final Fantasy 16 last night, and I got to the first Kupka fight.
Nice.
And
That's a good one.
It's
I
fantastic.
finally heard the music from the commercials, and I was like crying while I was playing it. I'm like, this is so pretty. This is just like such a beautiful moment. And I thought Jill was gonna get the axe. Whew, whew. Then Torgal went Super Saiyan. I don't care. This game came out a month ago, and I'm so far behind everyone. So I can talk about it. What a game! What a freaking game, you guys!
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's almost hard to talk about it because of how crazy it gets, right? Like it's hard to come up with words to describe it. But that first Kupka fight, where you're like, "All right, buddy, like it's time to go now. Like you're going down." And then the way it ends, it's like,
dude, the ending is so good in that fight. It is so good.
I agree. Phenomenal.
I'm a little pissed about how it ended, but I mean, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Don't have to get into it. I have not really been playing games. I've been playing a little bit of one game, but I'm going to save that for a second. I've been rereading a lot of comics. I'm guesting on a friend's show called Digging for Kryptonite this Friday. We're recording and we're talking about Infinite Crisis, which is one of my favorite events of all time for comic books. And I started thinking about this, and so I just wanted to like pull your guys in for your opinions about, I guess, preference. I've always considered myself a Marvel guy. Like I host a comic book show, Shortbox Summary. You can check it out. That's pretty much just about mid-2000s Marvel books. Now, that said, I currently think Marvel's amazing right now. I'm like a really big fan of pretty much all the books that are coming out. I'm not a fan of all the decisions they're making, but like I generally enjoy a book I read these days with a Marvel logo on it. DC, I'm a little bit more ambivalent on, but I'm rereading these books and like I think they are flawless. I think these are like perfect event books, and the way everything's set up, the way everything's laid out, I could not be having more fun than I am rereading this 50, 60 book run to talk about on a podcast for 2 hours on Friday. I'm very excited. So I wanted to ask you guys, do you feel like you're more critical of things you care about, or are you more forgiving of things you care about? Just out of curiosity, because like I said, I consider myself a Marvel guy. I'm a big Marvel fan. I'm just like, no, this era is excellent. Whereas now I'm like DC, I'm a little not sold on the current DC direction. I always thought that was because I just cared less about DC, but I'm wondering if it's because I care more about it. So just in terms of you guys, how do you operate?
That's an interesting question.
I can tell you immediately my gut reaction is that I am way more forgiving of things I care about. And I'm willing to look past things that I don't like for things I care about. And that's almost to a fault, right? If I'm immediately going into something being like, I don't really like this or care about this, I can be super negative about it 100%. But it is an interesting phenomenon because the way you approach something definitely changes the way you see it overall.
I mean,
I can tell you
science, right? Like the act of observing something changes the outcome, right?
I can tell you I thought for a long time that Spider-Man The Other was one of the best Spider-Man stories of all time, and then I reread it a couple years ago and I'm like, it kind of sucks.
I reread that for Shortbox Summary thinking it sucked the first time I read it. Not bad. I think it's like a solid C plus. We expect more out of Spidey, yeah.
I remember being like an early teenager reading it, and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome.
The Spider Totem, yeah.
Yeah, and then I reread it like a couple years ago, and I'm like, I don't really know that this is as good as I remember it.
Dude, that's literally the point of my podcast. I think the line I use is like to figure out if these books were good or if I was 15.
Yeah.
So-
What I will say though is a book that did not do that was Batman Hush, which is my favorite Batman story of all time. When I first read that, I thought it was phenomenal, and when I read it today, I usually read it like once a year. Um, it is just some of the best Batman I think you can possibly get. I love Hush.
I have 5 hours of podcast with me and my buddy Richard literally shitting all over that book. I think that book fucking sucks. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Wow.
Opinions, baby. That's what's cool. Everyone's got a different one.
So I think I'm probably in agreement here with Seth.
Sorry, if you're listening, Seth looks miserable right now.
Yeah.
Seth looks like I just hit him with a car. He's just like
beat
betrayed
shit out of you.
Yeah.
Seth just took out his replica Death Note and wrote George in it.
Oh no.
I think I'm in agreement with you, Seth, that I am much more forgiving on things that I care about. So an example, obviously, I think everybody that listens at this point probably knows I'm a pretty big MCU fan. Like I've seen it all. I don't think I missed anything from the MCU, including the TV shows. And everybody. I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but everybody has been absolutely crapping on Secret Invasion and the Disney Plus show. And to be fair, I thought it was like fine. I didn't think it was good necessarily or great, but I thought it was fine. But everybody out there is like, this is the worst thing ever, and I think it's fine. The ending was pretty abysmal, but I think with MCU stuff in particular, and then I'd say, interestingly enough, though, although this is a little different, I've been more critical. Zelda is one of my favorite series, but Tears of the Kingdom I've been really critical of. So I don't know. Maybe it just depends on the franchise for me or something.
How about Star Wars? Because I know, like, you and I,
Yeah.
all of you and I, and Coach, like, we always get into, after we finish recording, we immediately talk about Star Wars for, like, at least 25 minutes, usually.
I'm pretty forgiving with
every
Star
episode.
Wars, to be honest with you. Like, I know we had that whole discussion about Boba Fett and about how, like, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was bad, though, or anything, and I would actually go that far with every movie that's released. I don't think there's been necessarily a bad movie. I think I've enjoyed all of them. They just are of varying quality.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty forgiving.
I would say bad Star Wars movie, right? Like I've enjoyed it myself at all of them.
Yeah.
But as far as like, Star Wars movie, I would say like the sequel trilogy were bad Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I fall on the Star Wars side. I think I fall on I'm generally more positive because the insane negativity from the fandom frustrates me so much.
Yeah.
That I'm like, man, these guys annoy me to the point where I'm like unconsciously disagreeing with them. But like I watched all of Kenobi and I was like, yeah, there's some lame moments, but I thought it was a pretty phenomenal show.
Yeah, I agree.
I watched Book of Boba Fett thinking that it was pretty much useless and it was a setup for the Mandalorian season 3, but then I watched the Mandalorian season 3 and I'm like, it was okay. So I'm not really sure where I fall in Star Wars. I think I'm maybe somewhere in the middle. I try to be as fair as possible. I can say that, But,
yeah. I was just curious what y'all's temperature was.
Seth is
Like,
the world's
I think...
only objective Star Wars fan.
Yeah. Congratulations, bud. That's quite the title. Like, I think I might like this era of DC more, so I'm like, wait, why am I doing a Marvel podcast if I'm enjoying this Infinite Crisis shit so much? But
what year was Infinite Crisis?
05 to 06 into 07, I think. I think it was delayed. Like, the countdown stuff was all 05, and then Infinite Crisis was 2006 to 2007.
And wasn't New 52 like 2010?
2011, I think.
They rebooted twice that fast back then?
Infinite Crisis wasn't a reboot.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh.
It like reintroduced the multiverse after 20 years of it being away.
Oh. Okay, I do know what this is now.
But let's see. For games, I've been playing, like I said, Final Fantasy 16. That game's excellent. I will burn through it as quickly as I can. So, Seth, we can have like a spoiler episode. Austin, sounds like it fell to your back burner.
Yeah, for now, I do want to go back to it. I may kind
We
of
got to do
start
that,
mixing
and
it
we
in.
got to do Jedi Survivor too. Those games are so good. Both those games. What a summer for gaming.
There's too
We
many
got to play
games
that,
coming out.
and we got to play Diablo 4 still too.
I
Shit.
forgot about that.
Jedi Survivor's phenomenal.
Yeah, I forgot. I forgot I had Diablo 4 despite playing it for over 15 hours.
That game fell off pretty quick for me. I think it's just because so much other stuff was coming out. I don't think it was a matter of the quality of that game. It was more so just when 16 came out.
Came
I
out
was
a
like,
week
well,
before Tears. Then it came out like 3 weeks before Final Fantasy 16 and like 1 week before Tears of the Kingdom, or 1 week after Tears of the Kingdom.
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
It was in a bad sandwich between
It
those
was.
two highly anticipated games. No, what I've been playing on the side is Siphon Filter Logan Shadow, the PSP game that is remastered, I guess technically, or like repurposed for console play. And it made me think, I love those games so much on PSP when they were coming out. Those games play like dog shit on a controller. I remember even thinking at the time, like, man, this game would be so much better with a controller. And no, it's just not. And I think part of the reason is we just have different expectations for handheld games than we do for console games. And so playing a handheld game on a console feels like shit. And I bring that up because there were rumors of a Switch 2 being released this year, next year, within the next calendar year.
What a transition.
And that is our main topic of the show today, talking about what we want out of a Switch 2. And I gotta be honest, my stuff is really boring. My stuff is mostly UI based. I want the shop to stop being unbearable to look through. I need there to not be 980 things on sale every week so that I might actually consider buying something on sale.
So this is actually a good point. I have wanted that for a while. I'm not as bothered by the amount of things on sale. What I'm more bothered by is the total lack of filtering options at all for the sales. The interesting thing there, George, is if you go on the Nintendo eShop website, it actually sorts them out by like, let's just say Bethesda is doing a big, which I think they are right now, a big blowout sale for QuakeCon or whatever it is. It will group those games together and have a little graphic that says like Bethesda QuakeCon sale, and all those games will be in a cluster on the eShop website. But then for some reason on the eShop itself on the Switch, it's just like sales. All right, there they are. And it's 1,000 games just in a random order.
Unbelievable. That's my number one.
I like that.
Austin, do you have you said a Video Game Chronicle
Yes. So
website link citing this?
I do. So I'll just kind of read it off quick. For those who were unaware, basically like George said, this was something that Video Games Chronicle sources kind of leaked to them, and I would say Video Games Chronicle is pretty trustworthy. They've leaked some pretty big stuff in the past. But basically they had a source that came out and said that Nintendo is likely to release their successor to the Switch, not necessarily a Switch 2, but whatever their next system is, during the second half of 2024. And the article claims they're holding it till later in the year because they want to avoid any sort of shortages like PS5 and Series X had when those came out. So I would assume that this thing is basically like done in that case, and they're just taking some time to, manufacture them and get them ready to go so that there's not a Wii or, like I said, PS5 Series X situation. But the one thing I will say that they did come out here and said, well, two things I should say. They made it sound as though they didn't give specific details, but they made it sound as though it would be similar to the Switch, something that is portable and dockable at the same time. And then the only other piece of information here is that they said it would include a LCD screen, not an OLED, like the OLED Switch model, probably to save some money for, just the overall MSRP. It'll have more memory, so storage, because all the new games are taking more and more storage. And then finally, it said it will accept physical games via a cartridge slot, and that is all their source told them. So Kind of interesting. Kind of interesting.
So right off the bat, do you think it's going to accept Switch cartridges? Do you think it's going to be backwards compatible?
That's the big question. I hope to God. I hope to God. If they do another successor console that is not backwards compatible, Nintendo loves to mix things up, but I think now they have found what they need to stick with, frankly. And it sounds like they're going that direction with something that's dockable and portable. Like it sounds like it's going to be a Switch successor by all means. So I would hope to God that the thing is freaking backwards compatible because that library is huge. I mean, there are still tons of Switch games coming out. I think it'd be a massive blunder to restart that system again, which Nintendo has done over and over and over again throughout the years.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Seth, you've sold and bought more Switches than any person I know. How interested are you in Nintendo's next gen console?
I don't know. They gotta sell me on it, right? Like, I'm not a Mario guy. I'm not a Smash Brothers guy. I'm not a Mario Kart. I'm not a Mario Party. I don't like any of the Nintendo mainstays pretty much except Monster Hunter.
And Xenoblade.
Yeah, I guess. I guess Xenoblade. Well, Xenoblade's more like a Bandai property. It just Nintendo has like exclusive publishing rights or something like that. I don't know. But they're gonna have to sell me on it because I don't know. I don't play my Switch very often. I like Pokemon, but Pokemon's been extremely disappointing lately. I think Scarlet and Violet were good games that maybe were held back by the power of the Switch, but also it's like other games don't look like that. Um, I don't know. I would like this to be a significant step up in power. I feel like the Nintendo's been kind of spinning their wheels in the power department since the Wii, and there's just no real reason for it. I don't know. We'll see. I would like this to be something more similar to the Steam Deck, I guess. That's all I really got to say about it. Because I think we all know what kind of games we're going to get from a Nintendo console. It's just going to be, the way we play them. I don't see this as being one of their massively like giant step ups in the way we play games.
Yeah. By the way, just because you brought this up and I was curious, I went and looked up who owns the Xenoblade IP. Nintendo actually owns it. So
is it really?
They do, and it seems like, oddly enough, I didn't know this. Xenogears, Xenosaga, and Xenoblade are all owned by separate companies. So Xenogears is still owned by Square Enix. Xenosaga is still owned by Bandai, and Xenoblade is owned by Nintendo, which is not.
I watched I watched like a 2-hour documentary breaking down every single game in the Xeno line of games. And Jesus Christ, like what a nightmare to keep up with all that stuff, man. I don't know how that person did it and like made it make sense.
The only connecting thread between them all is Tetsuya Takahashi, who's been trying to make the same story for 25 years or something like that. I really thought Bandai still owned it. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I do agree that I mean, obviously if it's a new console, it should have a step up in power. My concern is if they put it on par with, let's just say something close to the PS5, I know that that's going to be expensive, and I know that that is not what Nintendo has rolled with from a company, standpoint throughout the years. They've been more of the discount system. So I wish they would do that, but I don't know that they will, to be honest with you. I know that there was a leak maybe a couple months ago that we had talked about over text that claimed that it would be more in line with the PS4 and Xbox One power, which, I mean, I think is fine. I'm not super opposed to it.
What's the Steam Deck compared to?
I don't know. I think it's in between the PS4 and PS5. It can play certain PS5 quality games, albeit at low settings, but like it can play Hogwarts Legacy. I don't know exactly where it falls in the power scale. I would assume at least at like the PS4 level, but I'm not positive.
Gotcha. I mean, is that it's tough because like we know that's good enough for Nintendo games, right? Like Nintendo doesn't make necessarily beefy games. They are very creative, not just in terms of art direction, all that, but in like maximizing the potential of their hardware, right? Like Pokemon aside, as said by Seth. But like
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's nothing about like the upcoming Mario game, whatever it's called, I can't remember. Not the RPG, the other one,
Oh,
the
Wonder.
new 2D scroller.
Wonder.
Wonder. There's nothing about that that looks like terribly taxing or demanding on consoles, but like, goddamn, do I want to play? Like, it really does get like the Nintendo seal of, just not even approval, but like the Nintendo seal of like, yeah, it gets a free pass. Nintendo seal of free pass. Let's call it that. Like, they don't need power to make successful games, but the third party, like, that's where they do. But
Well,
like, if the console sells the amount of consoles that Switch did, then like, does that even matter? Like, if the pool of potential customers is that big.
I would say yes because they're self-sabotaging at this point. Like the latest games that have come out from what is that?
I had a bug on my camera that kept like walking across the the lens. Sorry about that.
He wanted to be on the
The
podcast.
latest
Yeah.
the latest biggest games for Nintendo have been so clearly held back by the power of the Switch. Tears of the Kingdom, if you run it on an emulator, you can run it better than the Switch on a Steam Deck. Same with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I think that's like pretty insulting for someone that has a Nintendo Switch, right? Like these people should be able to play these games at a decent fidelity at least. And Scarlet and Violet's case especially is like, man, that game is ugly.
Yeah.
That looks like a smashed bag of assholes. And and
Good way of putting it.
there's really no excuse for it. The terrain looks like something ripped straight out of like the N64 era, and it's not acceptable in today's environment. And
Oh,
Nin-
I mean, this is a discussion we've been having for 20 years though. Like, oh man, Grand Theft Auto 3 looks so good on PlayStation 2. It's like, dude, you think that looks good? You should see it on PC. Like that is just what the conversation's been
yeah, but it's not
for
a multi-plat.
forever.
Well, I'll say this too about Pokemon. I mean, I'm sure it looks better on PC, but I still think that was like a developer issue where I mean,
would agree.
you look at Tears of the Kingdom versus that game, which technically is still running off like a launch Switch engine. It just looks so much better than Pokemon does, like drastically. So, I don't know that Pokemon
and
is necessarily
Xenoblade
the
3.
best reference, but yeah, Xenoblade 3 also looks pretty good, but I know it could be much better. I just think what it comes down to is price. Like, are they willing to potentially limit their audience, their consumer audience by, smacking a $450, $500 price on it?
Well, here's what I'll say to Nintendo. Do you really want poor people as your audience? Like, do they really deserve the next Nintendo console? I don't know that they do. You know.
Can't hear you laughing, so we should tell people that you're laughing because that was a joke.
Yeah, people didn't understand that was a joke that they don't deserve.
Just making sure, like we saw you laughing, but we didn't hear you laughing, so I just wanted to double check. But also, like I don't know, like if Nintendo Switch Online is there from the start, like you don't need to buy a game at launch, right? Like you need, and if it's like continuing your Nintendo Online membership from Switch, then like shit, man, you just bought a brand new console that plays all these games that you thought you loved so much, even better than you ever thought they could, right?
One thing I will say,
I want to know.
PlayStation 5 did that with the PlayStation Plus program. Right?
That's true. One thing I will say is I feel like it needs to be, I don't know, it needs to, from a controller standpoint, I'd like for it to be built a little more durable. I feel like the Joy-Cons, drifting aside, okay, that's a totally separate conversation.
Dude.
But those things feel so cheap when you compare them to other, the DualSense, for example, or the Xbox controller. I would hope we get more functional premium, I guess, controllers.
Dude, the Joy-Cons are such trash that it is actually uncomfortable to hold and play a game the Joy-Con. Like it's almost unusable in my opinion. Like for me anyway. Like
yeah, it's like
I
you say that
handle it.
You say that it is the perfect controller for kids.
It is. That's true. That's a good point.
It is a great
Hey.
controller for kids.
No one likes kids. All right. I subscribe to a subreddit of kids falling down and laugh.
Okay,
All
then
right. I don't care about this kid.
that's fair. That's fair. But it is like having like my niece and nephew over. All they want to do is play Mario Kart because they could actually fit their hands on the fucking Switch controller with like the little bumper stuff up top. It was awesome. I mean, they suck at Mario Kart, but like it was just really cool. Like because I remember playing my first Xbox and I was back with a Duke controller and I was like, "What the fuck, you guys? Like, how am I supposed to use this thing?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to play Project Gotham Racing? No, not like this."
No, that's a good point.
What is like because the Nintendo Switch came out and like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, like that all that shit came out pre-inflation, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't think they adjusted the prices in the US for inflation. I think they adjusted them in other countries to match inflation.
Right.
What is
They're
the
too scared.
what is the highest amount dollar value that you guys would be willing to pay for a new Nintendo console?
I think it depends on the performance, kind of as we've been talking. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's strong, if it's really strong, if it's stronger than a Steam Deck, for example, I mean, I'd be willing to pay 450, 500, but I don't think that would be the general public. I think if I had to guess, it'll lie somewhere between 350 and 400.
I would really like Nintendo to throw everybody a curveball, and they were like, "This is like, you thought this was gonna be like the family friendly, like fun console we've been putting out for 20 years. No, this is it's the size of a refrigerator, and it's 8 times more powerful than the PS5, and it's $6,000."
Yeah.
And by the way, Grand Theft Auto 6 Switch 2 exclusive.
Exclusive.
This thing
you're gonna
has-
pay it. You're gonna like it.
This thing has enough computational know-how to hack into NORAD. Like we've got you covered with this bad boy.
Oh my lord.
Yeah. We
You guys hear
suckered
me?
you guys
Hey.
in with your Smash Brothers addiction.
Hey, when
And
everyone zigs, that's when it's time to zag. You know, like
that's right.
I guess like there's not much interesting stuff to say about the games. There's no games announced for this thing, obviously, and we're not game
What are you
developers.
talking about?
We're not
There
game
is
developers.
games announced for it.
What is it?
You're gonna get Super Mario Brothers.
Shut
You're
the-
gonna
shut
get
the fuck up,
Mario
Stats.
Kart.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna get a Zelda game for it. What are you talking about?
Okay, all right, okay. And like I don't think it's interesting to be like, oh, maybe now is when you introduce GameCube, Nintendo on. Like I just don't think that's like a worthwhile conversation. But are there any hopes for play patterns, I guess, that you guys want? Like besides upgraded controllers that you guys were talking about for the Switch, like the Joy-Cons, is there anything else you want out of a new Nintendo console?
Yeah, I want like a proficient online
That's what I was gonna say.
ecosystem. Like like the PlayStation and Xbox I've had for a decade or more. I don't. My time dilation is like way out of control. I have no idea how long it's been. But
Xbox has had
Oh,
it since like
dude.
2007.
It's been like
so,
20
yeah.
years
Yeah.
almost.
Well, the PlayStation 4 is really the first time it started for PlayStation, right? So
That's
about
true.
a decade. We got like the chat rooms and stuff like that, which we used to
Well,
spend so much time in, dude. So much time we used to spend in those PS4 like
Yep.
voice chat
Parties.
rooms. Yep.
Man, can I have a quick aside from the Nintendo stuff? Man, I like barely know how to use parties on my PlayStation 5. I think that shit is so confusing because it's like if I start a party one time with like my buddies Colin, Fabio, and Jamie, like that party still exists even if we like leave it. So like I'll join that party thinking they're already online, but they're not there. That was just like a previous party that had existed, and then they're in like a different party, and I'm like, but this says their names. Why doesn't it make more sense? Why isn't it easier to just jump into
Well,
a party? Why isn't it easier to
This
invite
is-
games?
This is just what's happening, George. Like we're getting older, and these technologies are going to start confusing us. All
Our
right.
minds are functioning a little lower than they used to.
Man, I fucking work in tech. This is going to be a problem for me. Okay, I can't have this.
By the way, Coach is here because we haven't
Oh, hey,
introduced him.
Coach.
From the Lone Star State, the Lone Ranger, the
He's the only
Texas Ranger.
he's the only person in Texas right now.
Yes. Only.
I saw your boy Dakota Prescott throw a pick in practice today, and then was it Trayvon Diggs who just immediately talked shit to him and went, "You ain't shit."
No, he said, "Shut your bitch ass up."
That's what it was.
Yeah.
How we feel about that, Coach?
I feel good. You got alpha dogs just being alpha dogs, so
yeah, that's what you want on a football team.
They're bored. I mean, like, okay, you're gonna play against each other for the next 5 to 6 weeks before September rolls around, middle September when football season starts. So,
yeah. Coach, we were just talking about this rumored Nintendo Switch 2. We were talking about things we wanted, things we expected, things that we just hope to God are there, like a stable online connectivity and interaction with our friends. Is there anything? I think you're probably the biggest Nintendo head here. Is there anything on your wish list for Nintendo? Is there anything that would make you a day one purchase for sure?
I don't need the high end 4K HD because I get that with the PS5, right? Nintendo's games are playing really good on the system right now. I just don't think we should get a Nintendo Switch 2 until Game Freak learns how to properly code. Because people think it's because the Switch doesn't have enough power, and I don't think so.
Well, Coach, they're gonna pull a Nintendo DS situation. It doesn't matter if they release the Switch 2. They're gonna release Pokemon only on the Switch like 4 years from now, like they did with Black and White 2, when that came out like 2 years after the 3DS was out.
Too.
Which is also in the rumors right now. So
you're so right.
Too. But I heard that with that rumor that it's going back to an LCD screen. I'm sure it'll be difficult for people that have the OLED to go back unless they can get it at 1080p. But again, it's all about battery life, right? Look at what?
Austin finally saw the bug that went across like the lens of my camera.
A bug just like in full frame, perfect framing, just walked across George's camera.
It's like a June bug or something.
No, it's even it could fit on like a pin. Like, it is such a small bug, but it's like right a centimeter away from my lens, so it looks fucking enormous, like it's about to eat my face off. I'm sorry, guys. I keep pushing it away, but he's a very persistent little critter.
I mean, I don't really need anything. I just need something that will be efficient, right? That will play good games. I guess 15 years ago, I would have said a lot different. But now that we have the Series X and the PS5, do we really need the Switch to play these?
This is actually, now that you're here, Coach, by the way, it's good to see you. I love you.
Good to see you. I love you too.
When did you abandon Xbox? Because I just remembered when he said you're like a Nintendo guy. I feel like I remember when we all first started podcasting, you were like the Xbox guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did the transition happen?
When they stopped making games that were like fun.
All right, fair enough.
Like straight up, man. Like
about 5 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much. When the Series X came out, like their whole push was, hey, we could play our old games at, remastered type quality. So they just haven't put anything out that I've been happy about. I thought I would be happy about Halo, but yeah.
Halo Infinite. You know what I was feeling when I was playing Halo Infinite? I was like, this is fine, but maybe it's time to retire Halo for a while. Because I'm like, would I still feel like this if Halo 4 and 5 and all this like nonsense hadn't been happening for the last decade? Because I feel like maybe I would have liked Infinite if I hadn't been.
You had to play 4 or 5.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or give it to a new company that's kind of like a startup company that's hungry, like what they were back in the day when Bungie started, right? I don't know. Maybe they're just too comfortable.
What was that came out? Like, it was like free to play on the PlayStation 5 generation, and I think PlayStation 4, I guess. It's basically Halo, except you also had like a portal gun.
Oh, Oh, we talked about that game a lot last summer. What the
Cliffy
heck
B's
was?
game?
Yeah, I was obsessed with that. That game was excellent, and then they
Cliffy
shut the servers down.
is it Cliffy B's game?
No, I don't
No,
think so.
Lawbringers or whatever that was?
no.
No, it wasn't.
It was a shooter, and it was basically like it looked just like Halo, except you had a portal gun, like straight up from Portal, essentially. God, what the heck was the name of that game?
It sounds fun. I must have missed this conversation.
You played a ton of that
Splitgate.
game. Yes.
Splitgate.
You talked about that game a lot last year, George. I remember that.
I love that. I played
Yeah.
dozens of hours of that game. I thought that game was excellent, and it felt like the Halo I wanted.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, didn't make money releasing their
You know, they
free-to-play
did-
game, unfortunately.
They did a really cool thing with Reach that they never explored ever again, which was making a prequel to Halo. Master Chief doesn't have to be in every damn game. All right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to constantly be a sequel to the last Master Chief story. Let's make more Reach style games. Let's go even further back in the Spartan program. Let's do some cool stuff here. Let's expand our creative talent a little bit instead of just being like Master Chief sells copies.
Dude, there's so much going on in that world too. Like, just there's more going on than what Master Chief is doing. Like, even if you make it like a simultaneous type game like ODST was, like, there is plenty of stuff going on in that world at the same time that is far more interesting.
Dude, just got the biggest brain idea ever. You're playing the next Halo game, boom, Normandy shows up. All of a sudden, we're combining the Mass Effect universe with the Halo universe.
There you go.
And guess what? The Flood's screwed. Because Commander Shepard is a much better protagonist than Master Chief. Commander Shepard would have had the Flood beaten in about one game flat. All right, I'm sick of it. These Master Chief nonsense.
I remember I think Austin and I were talking about this, but for Halo 5, who was the other like main character that was
Locke.
Is it
John Locke?
Yeah.
The most generic name of a
So-
cool character.
but what was his like call? Like
Spartan Locke, right?
Yeah, it was
was
Spartan
it
Locke.
was it- yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So that whole team at the beginning, like they could have made a game before that to build that character up and then lead into Halo 5, right? So there's a lot of things that they could have done with that, because like the lead up to 5 and then it was just the biggest letdown, I think, in all of gaming history. Like, we were imagining these two military combatants just going at each other, and it was just one little level.
Well, so
So
like
it's-
I
Really quick. Jameson Locke. John Locke is the old guy from Lost, my bad. And the philosopher, but whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I watched a recent like lore breakdown of Halo because I'm like I don't even remember what's going on in this universe, and I'm watching it and I'm like being like they got out of control. They completely went off the rails with
Hell
the
yeah.
lore, and
Any lore
like,
video starts 100,000 years before the events of Halo, and you're like, I'm sorry, excuse me?
Yeah, like it's got a little out of control. With something like Mass Effect, that 100,000 years was like built into the story, right? Like it was kind of like there because the whole story's about like a cycle. With Halo, it's like you got like the what were they called? The Arbiters, right? Or the something like
Forerunners.
that. Forerunners, yeah. And it's like, and there was like a civilization that predated them, and it's like, man, this completely went out of control. Let's dial it back, and let's get back to like humanity versus an invading alien force with the original Spartans, and I think you got yourselves like a really cool game.
Especially because Halo Reach is the best one. Like, I'm just gonna say that. I think that is hands down the best Halo story for sure. I think
I
it's
would
the
agree with that.
tightest. I think it's the tightest. I think it makes the most sense. I think it asks you to understand the least amount about the world.
I'm still salty about Halo Reach because it ruined Halo multiplayer for me forever. But I did like.
Oh,
the
cool.
story
I
in the
mean,
campaign.
it was 15 years ago, so I'm glad you're over it. That's good.
I'm not
Yeah.
over it.
I know. Also, it was 13 years ago. Sorry, I didn't mean to be a liar.
That's what you are now, isn't it, George? You're just a
but
big
yeah,
liar.
But yeah, Coach, anything else about the Switch too?
Now, just, I mean, how far can you push a handheld, right? Without
Yeah.
without the battery. Like, I know people want you know, the whole
Well,
4K. I know they want like docked. I mean, that's fine, right? You could do that docked, but when you
I am
handheld,
99% sure my phone is more powerful than the Switch and Steam Deck, and it lasts pretty good. But now, granted, they're $1,200. My phone is $1,200, but I feel like there's a compelling case to be made that if we can make our phones that powerful and those screens that good, maybe we can do a little better with the handhelds.
What kind of phone you got?
An S21 Ultra.
Oh, nice.
iPhone 4.
You know what I'm saying? I just feel like
3G.
maybe 3G.
the 3S. The
Can't even
iPhone
use
3S.
3G anymore. It got shut down.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like we could demand a little more from our handheld consoles, and everything would be okay.
Well, how did you guys might be able to answer this, but how did Xenoblade, the 3 games, or the 4 really, because of the DLC, but how did they run on the Switch? Were there a lot of bumps? I mean, okay, go for it.
Go for it,
Big
Seth.
They run exceptionally well at an exceptionally low resolution. Xenoblade 3 is a gorgeous game. Like dude, so good. But the resolution is so low in Xenoblade 3 especially that you can play it and you're like, this game looks like trash.
Well,
Even though like the art direction is phenomenal and like the actual like character models look really good, but the resolution is so low, dude. And Xenoblade 2 suffers from the same thing. Now I didn't see it as much in the definitive edition of Xenoblade 1, but I think that's because it's a Wii game and
Yeah.
it operating a little different.
That's what I was going to say is 3 even made a lot of improvements resolution wise over 2. I think they have some new like resolution software. It's still blurry, but 2 handheld looks bad. Like it really
Yeah.
does not look good. It's very hard to play. I think it runs at like 360p or some like horrible, absolutely horrible resolution.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. It is no joke. It is like 360p that it runs at.
And dude, honestly though, like it's such a shame too because those games would hands down be some of the most gorgeous games you've ever played if they could run at a decent resolution, but they're being
Imagine.
held back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine.
Well,
Can-
I
can I-
wonder with the Switch emulator how they look.
They
Because
look
someone,
phenomenal.
yeah,
Can
I-
you?
somebody
have,
put Tears of
such
the
a-
Kingdom in and it looks amazing.
Yeah, I also may have done that.
Can you
Oh,
plug
nice.
your oh my god, I forgot what it's called. Your Steam Deck into a TV and pair a controller and just play it that way?
Yeah.
All right. So there's ostensibly nothing separating that from the Switch at this point. My big thing about the Switch is that like it's probably Nintendo's shittiest handheld. Right? Like the battery doesn't last that long. Okay, hear me out. Like none of the games are handheld games. None of them are handheld. Like they are console games that like you play on the go. And so in that regard, yeah, I'm gonna call that a huge success. But like nothing about them feels handheldy, right? So like you get to play a console quality game for on my Switch. Like I have not a launch Switch, but I got it later in the year. But like I get like 4 hours out of it, and then it's donezo. You know, like the battery's just fried. Whereas like with a 3DS, I feel like I was getting 10 to 12. And granted, the games were designed differently, and I've spent a lot of my life playing handheld games and really like the nature of them compared to console games. And that's something we talked about at the beginning where I was revisiting Logan Shadow from PSP, right? And how like those games just don't work. And so like I think it's an underpowered home console. I think it's probably an overpowered, over-designed handheld console. And so I'm just like, what does the Switch do exceptionally well besides be pretty good at two things?
You know what? Like I have this weird thing with the Switch, and I don't think it's the Switch. I think it's me. Because I nailed it. I nailed down the feeling that I got from the Switch last night when I was playing my Steam Deck on my break at work, and it is crippling anxiety. I can't play these systems in public, and I think it's because I can't relax. Like I can play a game in my home when I'm chilling, like in this my game room or on the couch or something like that. I can relax and play a game, but I'm always constantly aware of like other things going on around me when I'm trying to play a game, and I feel like I can't focus on the game because I have such crippling anxiety about playing the game. And it's a weird thing, and I've always wondered why I don't like playing my Switch. I can play my Switch if I have it docked. And I can play, that's how I played Xenoblade 2, and it's how I played Xenoblade 3. I cannot play the Switch in public, away from home, portable. I can play my Steam Deck, sitting on the couch. It's not the actual like console itself. It's when I try to play it away from home, and that's weird, right? Maybe I need to see a therapist.
Where would you play it outside of your home?
Work, like I said, I'm on my break or something like that, or
traveling.
Yeah, it's just
okay.
Really quick, everyone should see a therapist. Therapy is great. I have a therapist. It's excellent.
If you have the right therapist, you gotta have the right therapist though.
Oh,
yeah, it sounds like Seth needs to talk to Miyamoto. Is what I
went through a couple. Dr. Moto.
Is Miyamoto dead? Is he the dead one?
No.
That's Gunpei Yokai, right?
You might be thinking of Iwata.
That's what I'm thinking of.
I wanted to say quickly, we got a comment here from the Freeman627. Thanks for listening. He said, or he or she says, the new Switch needs to have more powerful hardware, especially when the Steam Deck is on the market. And we've been dancing around the Steam Deck and the Switch. We've kind of been comparing the two. Do we think that, like, I don't know, does the whole power conversation really need to be at the forefront of their mind, especially now with the Steam Deck on the market? That's not a specific question we've talked about.
So here's what I'll say. I love my Steam Deck to pieces. I think it is absolutely a slap in the face to Nintendo that fans created an emulator that can run Nintendo games better on the Steam Deck than their own console. I think if I was Nintendo, I would be disgusted by that. And at a pretty similar price point, you can get a Steam Deck for $450. So if I'm Nintendo, I'm saying, like, we're going to make a new console and it's going to be more powerful than the Steam Deck, because that's disgusting. That's just how I would feel about it. But I also think the Steam Deck is, in hardware wise, a great threat to the Switch, because it does everything the Switch does except for the Nintendo exclusive games, right? Which they currently have via emulation. If you really want to play Nintendo games, it's the Switch games, you can play it on a Steam Deck. Is it legal? No, but you can do it. So, that's there. And
is it legal? No, neither is cocaine. People do that too. Yeah.
But I would say that, like, for the first time, Nintendo has a real competitor with the Steam Deck. And is it going to be as popular as the Switch? No, but that's because Nintendo has such a mind share in the general public, and the Steam Deck isn't really well known, I don't think, besides the hardcore gamers. But I will say the Steam Deck is probably the most impressive piece of hardware I've bought in the last 10 years. That thing is so good, man, and it's so fun to tinker with, and it's so fun to just, like, pick up your games and go. I didn't even consider the fact that I could play Final Fantasy 14 on the go until the other night, and I was like flabbergasted at how well it worked. And I'm like, God, this is what I've been missing in my life all these years. Now, granted, I also realized that I can't play it on the go because of my crippling anxiety, but that's a different discussion.
Sure, yeah. That's for you and your therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma, because I mean, you're right, Seth. Like, I'm sure from a Nintendo standpoint, they're like, man, we've got to have a strong system. At the same time, just to be fair here, I mean, the Switch is 6 years old, and the Steam Deck just came out, was it last year? So, I mean,
2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not surprised the Steam Deck is, like, considerably stronger, but you
listen, like just to wrap up a little. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just to wrap this up, I recommend the Steam Deck to everybody. If you guys are on the fence about it at all, buy the Steam Deck. It's so good.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
And I just wanted to throw out some numbers, because you're right. Like, I don't think the Steam Deck will ever be anywhere remotely as popular as the Switch. And I looked it up because I didn't know anything about Steam Deck sales numbers. I don't know how trustworthy this site is, VG Charts, but this is the only article I was able to find that claims that the Steam Deck is expected to surpass 3 million units sold this year. And this was an article from April. Of course,
I think that's pretty good.
yeah, and for PC related hardware, that's pretty good. But just
That they're made to order, right?
I think so.
They were. I know you can buy them like directly off of the Steam store as of like 2 months ago.
Just to be fair, though, the Switch has sold 125 million. So I don't think they're really competitors. I do think it's something they need to look at, though, as far as, that's still 3 million people that maybe bought a Steam Deck because they think the Switch is not strong enough for them.
Well, so I don't think it's a problem because obviously they sold 125 million. The Steam Deck's never going to, know, reach that. I think it could be a problem though if the narrative starts going around, why would I buy the Switch 2 when the Steam Deck can emulate it and it can emulate it better than the native console? And if that narrative catches on, they're going to have an issue.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Well, soccer mom down the street, who I think is a majority of, of course, gamers are buying it, but parents, they're going to, do you see a Steam Deck at GameStop or a Target? And I think that's the reason why you're at 3 million. I think you could only buy it online, right?
I think so. I could be wrong.
But also remember too, but Valve, their VR headset is, I think, head and shoulders above what the Oculus is. But of course, Oculus sells a lot more, but right?
Yeah, more than the HTC Vive.
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah, but it's because of the price point, and you can just go in and grab it at the store, and you don't need a PC, and it's kind of interesting. So I think that's the same.
It's the exact same as Switch, right?
Yeah. So, I think it needs to be stronger. It would be nice for it to be as strong as the Steam Deck, at least. But I know they're going to go for portability. That would be my only concern. I guess I've never seen a Steam Deck in person, Seth. Is it like much thicker than a Switch? Because it looks like it just from photos, but I don't know.
Yeah, dude. She thick.
That's the only thing. I'm like, I don't know if Nintendo would rock with that.
It's almost not even portable.
Yeah.
It's Game Gear. Do you remember the Sega Game Gear? A bunch of teachers brought theirs last year.
Let me go grab it with the case. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a bunch of teachers last year, once we got through all
Never
the
mind. I changed my mind. My dog's gonna see me. He's gonna freak out.
A bunch of people brought their Steam Decks. So
nice.
But they look pretty cool. I mean, good tech, But going back to,
it's not gonna matter when the Nintendo releases the Nintendo fridge.
The Nintendo fridge. So if you remember at the beginning of the life cycle of the Switch, they were able to play like Doom. Both Dooms came out. So there were third-party games at the time, but of course, any third-party games coming out now, like the new Assassin's Creed, I don't even think they'll attempt to put that on there, right? No. But next year or the year after, whenever we get the Switch, the next one, it might be able to play the lower-end games that are coming out right now. It's just the download size. That's the only thing. That's the biggest thing.
Sorry, Coach. I feel bad because you missed the joke earlier. Before you arrived, I said, what if Nintendo subverted all our expectations by making a refrigerator-sized console 8 times the strength of the PS5 and it was $6,000? I thought that would be pretty cool. We'll call it something like the N-Box. They're like, we're going to take Microsoft down. It's not as funny when I repeat the joke, but
yeah, it's not.
You had to.
I will say too, the other thing we haven't brought up here, I know there was a leak maybe a year or two ago that claimed the next Switch system or next Nintendo system would use DLSS, which the PS5 and Series X do not use. So I'd be curious to know what they attempt to do with that as well. I know that AI software is actually pretty good as far as up-resing, lower resolution games into high resolution games. And so maybe that somehow comes into play as far as releasing something PS4 strength, but through DLSS, they, try and put on some PS5 and Series X quality games on it.
Before we run...
Great for smaller studios too. Sorry, yes. Right? Like just so I understand the technology, like you could have a smaller staff, and you could have, I guess, worse art direction. Probably not art direction, but you could have smaller staff, like a less capable staff, and then with that technology, you'd be able to have a more polished game, right?
Before
I think so.
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
Jesus Christ. No, Seth. I remember my first podcast.
I don't know what's going on. I say before we run too long.
Yeah.
considering we all met through a PlayStation Vita group, I wanted to know how we felt about Sony's new handheld possibly playing Vita and PSP games.
If it does,
does the Vita live on? Does the Vita live on?
If it does, I'm there. Like, even if it's just like, if I can just download, if I can play any kind of games not reliant on an internet connection, I'm there. If I can pop trophies on the go, and if I can download, I don't even know, like, what, 500 gigabytes worth? Like, what could they fit on a card? If I could download like that many, like, shit, I can play like all the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster games on the go on that thing. Like, yes, I'm there day one, but I doubt. I think it's just gonna be like the whatever the Logitech shit is.
I feel like it can't. But
Yeah,
I thought it was really cool because like there's so many cool games that are trapped on PSP, man. Like the City of 012. That's a great game trapped on the PSP, and the Square Enix has shown no desire to ever take it elsewhere. But I would love to see that. I think that'd be pretty cool. And I mean, I was gonna say Danganronpa, but those games all got released on PS4. So,
But don't you guys still have your PS Vita?
I have a Vita TV.
Okay, like, and the shop's still open.
Well, it's cool. It's almost like a Vita 2. You know, it's why are you coming at me like this, Coach? I'm feeling very vulnerable and attacked right now. And,
Only because we have nothing of it, and it kind of looks funny. So
I think it'd be interesting.
I'm just playing, buddy.
I know.
I think it'd be interesting if it's able to play those, but I'm not really putting money on it, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be just a streaming box. That's my gut feeling. But...
So here's something that I've noticed though, just internally testing it in my house. PlayStation's native remote play works way better than remote playing over your phone or over your computer, and I'm wondering if they like give some sort of priority in the network to that kind of thing. But when I'm remote playing from my PS4 or from my PS5 to my PS4, there is almost no lag. Like I played through a lot of Final Fantasy 16, which is an action game that way, and almost no lag. When I would connect it to my phone, it wouldn't work hardly at all. So I don't know what that's about.
Interesting.
But also, I can kind of see them killing the remote play app on the phones just to be dicks about the new console because they want to sell it.
Is that supposed to come out this year? Did they say that?
It should probably come out whenever they want. I mean, they probably have all the stuff. It's just a DualSense cut in half with an LCD screen in it. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting. If it's just a streaming box, I'm not going to buy it. But
if it's just a streaming box, I'll buy it for less than $150.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they gotta give me a reason to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I got my phone, and I can hook those controllers up to my phone, and I can play whatever PS5 game I want on 5G. So it's like, what are you doing this for? Unless you just got excess components you're trying to get rid of. But the Vita game and PSP game thing I thought was a pretty cool selling point, which is why I believed it. George looks disgusted.
No, that would be great. Like, I love the PSP games that have been coming out on console, even though, like I said, like, man, these were like really made for for a handheld. They don't play super awesome with the DualShock. But like, no, like I said, like you said, we all met in a Vita PlayStation group. That was how we first met. That was what, 11 years ago, 10 years ago.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
I'm going to. No, own it.
I'm 22 still.
On those gray hairs, Cabron. You got this.
I'm actually not getting gray hairs. I'm balding, which is worse.
Oh,
wait a minute. Hold on.
Coach,
So
it's your time to shine.
Is it that PS Vita group where that guy showed a picture of Seth, me, and Austin, and Greg, and put gay? Is that the same?
I don't remember this.
It is. We were talking about something.
I don't remember this.
We were responding to something, and it was just like a normal conversation.
Dude.
And the guy just like made a meme of us and responded it as his comment.
I don't remember that.
It was us
because he was mad
with Greg, bro.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm still an admin of that group, and like once every 6 months I'll get a request to join the group.
I left that
I
group a
should have
very
posted
long
there
time
That
ago.
was
just to
so
see
funny, man.
what's going on. All right, I
Would
think
you
we've
rather
run out of.
game? Would you guys
Sorry.
rather game back in like 13 years ago in the middle of the PS3 days or now?
13 years ago, dude. Things were so creative and fun back then. Think of all like the
Oh, dude.
not everything was great. Not everything was a AAA banger, dude, but like things were so fun and fresh and creative. And now we've all fallen slave to the corporate overlords where everything is like it was financially driven back then too, but there was still like that creative love in video game design. And nowadays it's like, here's Assassin's Creed 15. We've made no changes except for the setting, and you're gonna buy it because you hate yourself and you want
'Cause
something
you
to do
always
with your
do.
free time. Yeah.
I don't think microtransactions were around then, were they?
They were
Yeah.
starting. They were starting.
It was the loot boxes that weren't around. That cancer hadn't showed up yet. But we
Online
had other
passes,
stuff.
online passes seem pretty fucking sweet now, though, don't they?
Yeah, they
It's
do.
like,
Yeah,
just
I
buy
was
the
gonna say,
game
wait,
new,
other
or
things.
buy the game new, or spend $10 and you'll just get like a full game with no microtransactions.
I
Just buying the
love,
game,
dude.
throwing it in, and playing it, man. Like,
I love
I
that
don't-
era of gaming, dude. Like, think
Yeah.
of how cool Infamous was. Infamous was so cool. Killzone, Resistance. These were like statement tentpole PlayStation franchises that they were like, we don't
It's-
need these anymore.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal, though. It's the same thing with everything else in your life. Like, it's not that it was better then. It's just that you cared more then.
I feel like I care a lot fucking right now, George. I'm
No,
pretty
you
mad
don't.
about it.
How many hundreds of hours have you put into one game franchise?
Easy. Take it easy.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Don't
it's
come at me
one of
like
those.
that.
Well, no, but it's the same thing with me. Like, I just don't care about games the way I used to 10 years ago. I can't. You know, I got 3 dogs, got a girlfriend. Like, I'm busy, man. I got a house I'm trying to fix up. I got 2.5
will say-
jobs. Like, I'm busy, man.
Pedro has beaten me over and over again in video game races, and it's starting to disgust me. And I don't know what to do about it because I feel like I really tried hard
Give up.
to play Final Fantasy
Give up.
16 at every second. Dude, this guy, we were racing through the Kaseki series, and I pulled ahead one time. I go on vacation for 2 weeks, and he decided to not sleep and beat 2 Kaseki games in that week. And I'll never be able to catch up now. He's too competitive. I can't beat him. And Final Fantasy 16, he beat in like a week. I have other things to do. So does he. I don't know how he does it.
and it does get worse because I remember when I was in college, I would box up my NES, put it in the closet, and not touch it till like Christmas. There it is.
Oh my god.
I found it. I had a screenshot. I knew I did somewhere.
Oh my god. There's my comment. I wonder if he realizes these aren't fanboy arguments, but arguments against his stupidity.
I wonder if I can pull this up on the screen. There's got to be a way.
Akira Inugame.
Let's see. Hold on. I got to pull this up for those who are listening. Sorry.
Dude, that is so funny. Coach, you haven't aged a day. Look at you.
Thank
You haven't aged a day. You look phenomenal still. Austin looks like a completely different person. I feel like I look better than I did.
Did your nuts drop yet by then?
Yeah, Austin,
Me?
how old are you? Austin,
Austin.
how old are you in
He's
that
like-
photo?
I was 18.
15?
I was 18.
Yeah.
God, you look like a turtle that wished to be a person in that photo. And now
Dude,
you just look.
you don't-
Now you just look like a handsome ass person. Look at you now,
Thank
kid.
you.
You did it.
Thank you.
You look nothing like that person. Like
No, I totally
that
changed.
person, like even your facial structure is completely different. I don't know who that person is.
Well,
He's
it's
gone.
because I did change a lot. Like obviously my hairstyle has drastically changed, but also I lost like after that in college I lost like 60 pounds. So I like lost a considerable amount of weight, so I just changed.
How much do you weigh now?
155.
So you lost
Yeah,
like.
a real UFC lightweight.
Yeah.
Sorry, you lost about a third of your body weight.
Yeah, I was like 210 probably in that photo.
Jeez, Louis, good for you, man. That's what I'm
UFC
trying to.
lightweight. Oh, shit.
That's
Never
why
get
I'm walking every day,
comfortable.
man. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to lose 60.
Never get comfortable, Austin, because I gained 70 pounds in the last.
Oh,
2
I
years.
know. I
was-
know.
Well, damn, I didn't know I looked that bad.
No, not you. I said God damn it.
I know you did, Seth. You look terrible.
God, you look like you ate high school, Seth.
No, I'm just
playing, Austin. I know you didn't mean that.
That's what my friends said about me in college. It was infuriating because like I would show them pictures of me in high school.
I agree, Coach. I think back then, legitimately different. That things were the gaming was just in a better spot.
Like when releases, like we still got excited. I mean, I'm excited for Spider-Man, but I'm not like, not like how it was before. Like any big release.
Dude, I'm about to like show up to Sony headquarters and just like start smacking people around and be like, "Give me Resistance, or I'm gonna lose it."
Yeah.
I'll start picketing outside.
You might as well go on and lose it then. Actually, you want to just lose it now?
They keep teasing it.
Was that who did that one?
Insomniac.
Yeah.
Insomniac.
Or was that? No, that was Sucker Punch.
Or was it the other one? Yeah.
No, Resistance.
Insomniac.
Was Insomniac.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, you said Resistance. I thought you said it Infamous.
Yeah, it was. Well, I said Infamous earlier, but
okay.
Yeah, it was really jarring because Insomniac's logo doesn't fit with the theme of that game whatsoever. So you boot up Resistance, and it's like this horrific shooter, and Insomniac's like fun bubble letter logo pops up. Infamous was just as good, if not better. Was cool.
And even the generation before that on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, like you still had companies like trying to break out. Like I know Jack and Daxter, right? They started their new series. Naughty Dog started that new series. And then you had Insomniacs. What was theirs?
Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank. You had all these new IPs coming out during that time, and it was exciting.
It was exciting, but I don't like the PS2 generation because there was like a 1 in 3 chance that the game you bought was going to be hot trash. And you just had there's no way you could prepare for it. Like there was a lot of bad games in that generation. Like I remember buying that Batman game on Xbox. I think it was just called Batman. What was the Batman game that came out before?
Vengeance, I think.
There was Batman Begins, then there was a Batman based on the animated series, and there was Rise of Sun Tzu.
Yeah,
Batman
and Dark Shadows, Dark Tomorrow.
Oh, Dark Tomorrow sounds right. It was really bad.
That game was awful.
Yeah. But the cover looked so cool, man, and like the previews looked so cool. I had that I had a Xbox magazine. I think they send the demo discs in.
Good old days.
Batman Vengeance is the one based off Batman the animated series, and that one's actually pretty good. All right, guys, I think we've run out of meaningful things to say about what we want out of a Switch 2 since we just started reminiscing about 10 years ago, and I can't stop staring. I want to make this photo my background on my computer. This is amazing.
Dude.
That was the year Greg snuck up on me, not realizing that, like, I almost punched him in the head. I almost punched Greg.
Because he saw you had his shirt on, right? And then he like...
Yeah, and he ducked down into the crowd and popped up right in my face and, like, scared the shit out of me, dude. Because you're already on edge, right? Like you got a bunch of people around. I'm in a city I don't know. I'm not from the city. I'm from like the middle of the mountains. So I'm like a little scazzed out, and all of a sudden
wary.
He scares the crap out of me. Almost catches a karate right fist in the head, and then I would be the guy who, oh my god, then I would be the guy who punched Greg Miller. I almost wish that would have happened.
Respectfully, in that photo, you look like the only thing you were punching was like another ticket to the buffet. You've lost so much weight, man. I cannot believe that's the same person.
I think it was. I don't know. I think I'm just built differently now because I'm definitely heavier than I was like weight wise back then. But I think I started hitting the gym a lot. Yeah, I started hitting the gym a lot, and also I don't know what's going on in that photo.
Also, that facial hair is awful. Respectfully, the beard is so much better than whatever fucking bull horns you got rocking under.
Who took the picture, Elijah?
Oh, I don't even
Colin,
know.
We already took that picture.
Colin wasn't there.
Colin was there. I was at that PAX because that was the one we hung out at, right?
It was. You know what? It
I'm
was
99% sure
That was the year
Colin
before.
was.
He wasn't.
I
He
think
wasn't,
that
'cause
was
they didn't do Beyond.
I think that was
They
Blake
did
that took
their
that photo.
Game Scoop. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't think
Me
it
and
was.
Elijah have a really good lost photo with Colin, and I've never seen it. But I specifically remember Colin goes, "That's a good one. I know, I can tell," and I've always wanted to see it to see if he was right or not. But Elijah's never given it to me. Now we barely ever talk. So, well, this has
on
been a
that
fun
note,
podcast.
yeah, on that note, thank you so much for listening to episode 129 of Frameskip, a video game podcast. You can reach us all on Twitter at FrameSkipPod. Please submit questions to the show there. I believe we're also FrameSkipPod on other services like Instagram. Are we on
Instagram, Facebook. I guess that's it.
Cool, yeah. Hit us up there. Just if you got questions, you got comments, you got concerns, let us know. You can find Austin at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. You can find Seth at Seth the 90s Kid. Don't follow him. You can find Coach fucking nowhere. He's off the grid, baby. He's Goes Protocol. You can find me on Twitter at Shortbox Summary. That's the comic book podcast I do. Taking a little hiatus, coming back in a few weeks. Very excited. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, that's great. You know how to find us. It's a big internet, and you look at that. You found us. So please tell your friends who you like that you think would like this show about us. That would be fucking dope. That'd be amazing. Do that. Spread the word. Anything else, guys?
That's it.
Cool. I'm gonna go pee. So I think this seems like as good a time as any to end the recording.
Okay. Goodbye.
Love you guys.
I love that
Yeah.
picture.